a novelist and has been writing and been published for many years now. Gina, welcome to Belfast 89.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about, I suppose, what inspired you to sit down and put pen to paper or type those first lines up on your laptop?
Well, I've always read. I think the love of writing has grown from having read so much, particularly when I was young. Always had a book in my hand, would even get up and prepare for school. I'm walking along, my nose is in a book, and I didn't want to put it down. I couldn't bear to be torn away from a story. Once the story grabbed me, that was it. I was just completely lost. And having always loved reading and being read to by my parents so much, my dad in particular, would read to me every evening and read amazing stories, put on all the voices for the characters, really bring the tales to life. So that inspired me to want to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always written, always scribbled little stories. I still have books that I'd written when I was very, very young. I mean, they're not very good. They've never been right today.
That was your practice sessions?
Yeah, that was my practice sessions, mostly about taking a dog to the park. But so, of course, that didn't transpire into today's writing. But that's what encouraged me, and it was having that love of reading and having parents who encouraged me so much and read to me and were always reading themselves. And I wanted to write a story, or stories, that make people feel like that they pick up a book and they just don't want to put it down.
They become engrossed by the story and the characters.
Yeah, so that they can just immerse themselves into a world completely different of the one that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Or so they can escape to anywhere, and anything is possible.
Is that why you started to write fantasy and fairy tales, Gina?
Yes, I think it was. I've always been really interested in fairy tales. I loved them as a child, and particularly the dark fairy tales. So there's a little bit of mystery and a little bit of horror in them, a bit of romance. Brings everything together, and I find that really interesting. And mythology as well. So my books include parts of mythology. So I wanted to include everything that I like to read. That's what I wanted to write.
Mm-hmm. I suppose literature and books can, as you say, can have such an impact on the way that we see the world, and having that ability to, create something exciting and interesting must feel like a great opportunity for you as a writer, just to explore those things that you're interested in.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, it's just unleash the imagination, really. It's like there's no boundaries, particularly when writing things like fantasy and fairy tales. You don't have to be restricted by what happens in this world. You can just bring magic and unbelievable tales to life.
Where do you get your inspiration from, Gina?
Well, I've always had quite a vivid imagination. So when I start writing a story, the characters, I might know basically what they're a little bit like. But as I write, they develop, and they often tell me themselves how they're going to be like and what's going to happen to them, because my stories are very character-driven.
Mm-hmm.
So the characters, as they start to take shape, the story forms, and often, yes, by itself, which is quite a surprise sometimes.
So who are some of your favourite characters from your novels? Do you have any favourites?
I do. At the moment, it's from my Mortiswood series. I particularly like, there's a wolf in it. And it's a Belfast. That's a breed of wolf.
Right.
That's for the Mortiswood series. They're a huge wolf and magical. So it's very much inspired by my own dog. I have a Siberian Husky.
Right, okay.
So it's very easy to imagine the wolf as a character and how it would move and how it would look, and to bring that to life. The dog helps very much.
Well, huskies are beautiful big dogs, especially Siberian Huskies.
Yes, very beautiful. So that sort of helps with that. But I do like, I have another character in there that he's a powerful necromancer, and he's a bit brooding, he's very troubled. His name is Bran, so that's the kind of character I like as a love interest. So I
the dark and mysterious type. type.
Yeah.
What lady doesn't love the dark and mysterious type?
Yeah, a little bit of a bad boy, so that is quite good. I like him. And then there's the main character, Kalia. And she's on a path of discovery, working out that why lots of people want her for some reason, so she has to work out why. And then she starts developing powers. So also as growing up and turning into a teenager, she's having to deal with these difficult life-changing situations. She gets into fights, and so she's really growing quite strong and bold and powerful.
Gina, you live in Thanet on the Kent coast, the northeastern tip. How much does your environment impact your writing? Do you find a lot of inspiration in your surroundings?
Yes, yeah, I do. I love Thanet, the place I live in. I love the coasts and the parks, and there's a stone pier in Margate, in the harbour. That features very heavily in the Mortiswood books. So with them, I have based it part in Margate and part in the mythical Mortiswood. So the settings have really helped, the local settings, beaches, Botany Bay, where there are some caves. They feature in the book, and I've actually scrubbed in those caves when I was young myself. And also Northdown Park, there was reputedly a haunted house. That features in the Mortiswood series as well. So they've all influenced me, and I like, it's easy to visualise things when you know somewhere. So that it brings it into a bit of reality, although it is fantasy.
And I suppose Britain has a rich Celtic mythology as well. Would that be the type of mythology that would feature in your books?
Yes, in part. Mine is based on Norse mythology, so there's a lot of characters and creatures influenced from Norse myth, and that is loosely tied up with Thanet. And the name Mortiswood, Mortis meaning of death, and Thanet itself was once referred to as the island of the dead.
Wow.
So in a way, it kind of ties up.
It has that sort of history and atmosphere of otherworldliness behind it.
Yes, yeah, it was once believed in Thanet, if the soil was taken from Thanet and placed onto somewhere else, it would kill any snakes that were around.
Wow.
I don't know why. It's very strange.
It's like St. Patrick over here.
Well, I was just going to say, perhaps St. Patrick bought some Thanet soil to Ireland and chased all the snakes out.
It's a very beautiful area, Thanet. It's an area I know quite well, and I can see how it would actually inspire you with the coastline.
Yes.
And some of the villages they're absolutely gorgeous, aren't they?
Yes, Broadstairs in particular.
Yeah.
I really like Broadstairs, where Charles Dickens stayed quite a lot. There's lots of buildings with plaques with Charles Dickens stayed here, Charles Dickens lived here. So that is a beautiful town.
And also Ramsgate with a lot of the sort of steep streets leading down to the harbour.
Yes, yeah, that is very lovely. With the harbour arches, and the only Royal Harbour, I think, in England.
Ports?
I'm not sure.
The Cinque
I
Ports.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Gina, you know, a lot of the authors that we've talked to, one of the things that we've asked is the publishing world can be a difficult world to navigate your way through. If there are any tips or pieces of advice that you would give aspiring writers, what would they be?
Grow a thick skin. No, right.
Do you know that has many of the writers have said the same thing.
Yes, it isn't want to read. I think that is the best way to find your own voice, to make your writing unique. New writers. It's very difficult to do unless you have to spend a lot of time writing. It's not. Of course, it is something that you can just do if you're naturally gifted with it. But like any skill, it's practice and perseverance. It's a hard slog.
Yeah. Do you think
you're
today?
not going to please everyone.
Sure. Do you think today that writers can maybe get too caught up in the commercial aspects of storytelling, rather than, as you say, finding their voice and just getting their story down on paper?
Yeah, I think the best thing is, of course, every writer wants to make money from their writing and to be read. That's the main thing. but enjoy it, love what you write, and I think that will come through in the writing and help you.
Is that why you chose this particular genre of fantasy and fairy tales, Gina? Is that what you love to read?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I love fantastical stories, and I like everything with a small hint of romance, not too heavy on the romance, just a hint. Just enough. I like lots of it. They're always quite thrilling, fast-paced, and I like to read things like that. But then I read lots. I'm very widely read. I have hundreds of books, so I read all different genres. But for writing, I do love this.
And you've got a new book coming out, haven't you? A fairy tale, a dark fairy tale coming out soon.
Yes, that's already out. It's called Always Golden, and it's a retelling of the French fairy tale, the story of Pretty Goldilocks, which isn't Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's a completely different story. So, I've given it a darker twist, and the princess she's quite feisty for a princess, I think I'd like to think.
Yeah. Because, so many of the fairy tales were, old stories passed down from generation to generation, and rewritten and written over depending on the time that they were being told in and the, I suppose, the societal conventions of that time. So have you given the tale of Goldilocks a bit of a twist? A modern twist?
It has a twist. It's part set in modern times.
Okay.
But it also goes back to many, many years ago. Medieval, there's castles, swords. Hints of magic. Mm-hmm. She's an old princess. Old-time princess, not an old princess.
I suppose that is the great thing about being able to write. Your imagination can take a story, take a character, and go anywhere with it.
Yeah, I particularly like creating landscapes and different worlds. So when they're walking around, everything is slightly different, and imagining that.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, listen, Gina, where can people find out about or buy your books?
They're all available for Kindle and in paperback, which can be ordered in any bookshop. Mm-hmm. There'll be new editions of the Mortimer's books being released in a month under Author's Reach, and signed copies are available to be ordered via the Author's Reach website, and also through my own website.
Through your own website. So, and your own website, Author's Reach, Amazon, and you will be able to order them in through any good bookstore.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
That's great. Gina, listen, all the best with Always Golden and your, your new release.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.